We are raised on tales of British exceptionalism, of a nation that stands as a beacon of democracy and fair play. Our history books brim with stories of valiant kings, groundbreaking inventions, and a global empire built on honour and justice. Yet beneath this meticulously crafted veneer lies a far more sinister reality. The truth is, the UK government operates much like a sophisticated crime syndicate, employing subtle yet effective tactics to maintain its iron grip on power and wealth. It's a grand deception, one carefully orchestrated over centuries, and its victims are none other than the everyday citizens of this nation. From the outside looking in, the UK might appear to be a paragon of virtue, a shining example of democracy in action. We boast of our parliamentary system, our independent judiciary, and our commitment to the rule of law. But these are mere distractions, smoke and mirrors, designed to conceal the true nature of the beast. Scratch beneath the surface and you'll find a system rigged in favour of the few at the expense of the many. The time has come to peel back the layers of this meticulously crafted illusion and expose the truth for what it is. The UK government, for all its pomp and ceremony, is little more than a sophisticated criminal enterprise. It thrives on the backs of its citizens, extracting wealth through a draconian system of taxation and deploying an arsenal of control mechanisms to keep the populace in check. This is the story of that deception, a journey into the dark heart of a system that has long masqueraded as a force for good. The roots of this grand deception run deep, stretching back through the annals of British history. From the very outset, the monarchy upon which this nation was built operated on a foundation of conquest and extraction. Lands were seized, resources plundered, and taxes levied upon a populace denied any genuine say in their own governance. The divine right of kings served as a convenient justification for what was, in essence, a well-orchestrated protection racket. This pattern of exploitation continued unabated, evolving over time to suit the changing political landscape. The emergence of Parliament did little to alter the fundamental power dynamic. While the faces in Westminster may have changed, the underlying objective remained the same: to maintain the status quo and safeguard the interests of those in power. The Industrial Revolution, while ushering in an era of unprecedented prosperity, also served as a catalyst for even greater inequality. The working classes, the engine of this newfound wealth, were ruthlessly exploited, their labour fueling the lavish lifestyles of the ruling elite. Fast forward to the present day, and we find ourselves living in a society where the echoes of this exploitative past continue to resonate. The players may have changed, with corporations and global institutions now joining the ranks of the political elite, but the game remains the same. The British public, burdened by an oppressive tax regime and subjected to a relentless barrage of propaganda and surveillance, are little more than pawns in a game rigged against them. The grand deception continues, but the time for complacency is over. They say there are two certainties in life, death and taxes. In the UK, the tax burden grows heavier, while public services crumble. Where is all this money going? The UK operates one of the most predatory tax regimes. Income tax, national insurance, VAT, council tax, inheritance tax. The list goes on. It's a rigged system benefiting the elite while trapping the rest of us. It's time to wake up and demand a fairer system. The UK tax system has a particularly insidious trick up its sleeve: double taxation. You can be taxed multiple times on the same income. It's like being mugged twice. VAT is a tax on a tax. Businesses pass VAT costs to consumers. You're paying tax on taxes. It's enough to make your head spin. This double taxation is unfair and immoral. It's time to demand a fairer, more transparent tax system. They say the open road is a symbol of freedom, but in the UK, driving is another chance for the taxman to squeeze every penny. From sky-high fuel taxes to ever-increasing road tax, owning a vehicle feels like a second mortgage. And then there's the ULEZ, a scheme that feels like another cash grab disguised as environmental concern. It's a classic case of the government using the environment as a smokescreen to justify yet another tax. This relentless assault on our finances traps millions in a cycle of debt and dependence. The average Brit is now saddled with record levels of personal debt. We're told this is the price of the good life, but the reality is insidious. This culture of debt is by design, a tactic to keep us financially enslaved. When you're struggling to make ends meet, you're less likely to question the status quo. They dangle the welfare state like a carrot on a stick. But the reality is far more cynical. The welfare system keeps people barely afloat, stripping them of dignity and agency. The government boasts about social welfare, but it's a facade. The system is convoluted and demeaning, designed to humiliate. It creates a sense of powerlessness and dependence. This is the mindset the ruling elite wants. The welfare state is a symptom, not a solution. We need real solutions. Living wage, affordable housing, education. A fairer society empowers individuals to thrive, not just survive. Stealing your future, the intergenerational theft of taxation. The true insidiousness of this financial enslavement runs even deeper. It's not just about the money they're taking from us today, it's about the future they're stealing from our children and grandchildren. Every pound siphoned off through excessive taxation, every penny wasted on government incompetence and corruption, is a pound not invested in our future. Our children inherit debt, crumbling infrastructure, and an economy rigged for the wealthy. They're saddled with our generation's complacency, forced to pay for a broken system. This is the intergenerational theft of taxation, a slow transfer of wealth from the many to the few, from the future to the present. We're told to tighten our belts, to make sacrifices for future generations. But sacrifices are demanded of those who can least afford it, the working and middle classes, the backbone of this country. Meanwhile, the elite continue to prosper, their wealth accumulating at an obscene rate, their children enjoying a life of privilege and opportunity that's increasingly out of reach for the rest of us. This is not sustainable. We cannot continue down this path of endless extraction and inequality without facing dire consequences. We need a fundamental shift in our thinking, a recognition that true prosperity comes not from hoarding wealth, but from investing in our people, our communities, and our future. We need to break free from the shackles of financial enslavement and create a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, not just survive. Smoke and mirrors in Westminster. They call it the Mother of Parliaments, a symbol of democracy. But inside, it's more theatre than substance, a carefully choreographed pantomime. The truth is, it's a sophisticated con trick. The reality is far different, a cosy club where true dissent is silenced. Scripted performances, full of sound and fury. The same tired arguments, repeated ad nauseum. Political posturing takes precedence over serving the electorate. Who can blame those disillusioned with this charade? The political class often seem more interested in feathering their own nests. They preach austerity while enjoying lavish expense accounts. Shackled by the system, the First-Past-the-Post Farce. This outdated system ensures the political landscape remains dominated by Labour and the Conservatives. Smaller parties are shut out, their voices drowned by the two-party machine. It breeds apathy and fosters tactical voting. We need a system that's truly representative, proportional representation or ranked choice voting is a step in the right direction. Section 3. The House of Lords, where privilege trumps democracy. The House of Lords, a bastion of unelected privilege, symbolises the UK's undemocratic core. This anachronistic institution stands as a reminder that true power resides with a select few. Imagine a legislative body where most members are appointed, not elected. This is the reality of the House of Lords, undermining democracy. Living under a watchful gaze. Remember that unsettling feeling of being watched? In the UK, that feeling is a reality. We've become a nation of suspects, living under constant surveillance. From the moment you step out, you're recorded and analysed. CCTV cameras capture our every move. But it's not just the cameras. Our phones, our computers, our online activity, all monitored. Every email, every website, every purchase leaves a digital trail. This data is a goldmine for control and manipulation. It can predict our behaviour and influence our choices. Governments and corporations wield this power. And let's not forget the informants and snoops. The government fosters fear and suspicion. Section 2. The erosion of privacy. From data harvesting to facial recognition. They tell us it's for our safety, but it's about control. Data harvesting and facial recognition track our every move. It's a dystopian nightmare eroding our freedom. We must fight for our right to privacy. Justice for sale. One law for them, another for us. We're raised on the notion that British justice is blind, that everyone is equal in the eyes of the law. Yet, the reality couldn't be further from the truth. The legal system, much like the rest of this grand illusion we call a democracy, is rigged in favour of the wealthy and powerful. A system where justice is a commodity, available to the highest bidder. For ordinary citizens, navigating the legal system can feel like navigating a labyrinth, blindfolded and handcuffed. The process is often opaque, the language impenetrable and the costs prohibitive. Legal aid, once a lifeline for those who couldn't afford representation, has been slashed to the bone, leaving the most vulnerable at the mercy of a system that feels increasingly stacked against them. Meanwhile, the wealthy and well-connected glide through this labyrinth with ease. They can afford the best lawyers, the finest legal minds money can buy. They understand the intricacies of the system, the loopholes to exploit, the levers of power to pull. For them, justice is not a right. It's a service, a product to be purchased and manipulated to their advantage. We see this disparity play out time and again. Corporate criminals, those whose greed and recklessness wreak havoc on the lives of millions, often escape with little more than a slap on the wrist. Their fines, a mere rounding error in their vast fortunes, do little to deter future wrongdoing. Politicians who abuse their power, who line their pockets with public funds, are rarely held to account. They hide behind a wall of legal technicalities, their reputations burnished by expensive PR firms. Above the law, when power grants impunity. The stench of hypocrisy hangs heavy in the air. Those who preach law and order often flout the rules. They operate with a sense of entitlement above the law. Scandals reveal the rot at the heart of the system. Politicians embroiled in corruption, hands in public funds. Even the royal family is not immune to scandal. Scandals fade, reputations intact, power undiminished. The system protects its own, silencing dissent. This culture of impunity breeds cynicism and despair. It erodes trust in institutions, fueling a sense of rigged rules. Corruption flourishes. Justice feels like a fool's errand. How can we claim to be a nation of laws? The answer is simple. We cannot. The UK legal system protects the elite, not justice for all. They call it the Fourth Estate, the free press, the guardians of truth and accountability. We're told they're the watchdog of democracy, keeping the powerful in check and holding them to account. Yet in the UK, the media more often resembles a lapdog, obediently serving the interests of the establishment, peddling propaganda and silencing dissent. It's a cosy relationship, this alliance between the political and media elite. They move in the same circles, attend the same dinner parties, their children go to the same schools. They share a world view, a set of assumptions about how the world works and their place at the top of the pyramid. Is it any wonder then that the media so often acts as a mouthpiece for the government, uncritically parroting the official line on everything from economic policy to foreign wars? The mainstream media, dominated by a handful of corporations with vested interests in maintaining the status quo, has become incredibly adept at shaping public opinion. They understand the power of narrative, the importance of framing the debate, of controlling the flow of information. They know that if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth, and they're not afraid to use their influence to protect their own. Critical journalism, the kind that challenges the powerful and speaks truth to power, is a rare commodity these days. Journalists who dare to step outside the accepted narrative, who ask uncomfortable questions and challenge the official line, are often sidelined, smeared, and silenced. The BBC, once a respected institution known for its impartiality and journalistic integrity, has become a shadow of its former self. Funded by a mandatory licence fee, beholden to the government for its charter, and run by an executive class drawn from the same elite circles as the politicians they're supposed to hold accountable, the Beeb has become just another cog in the propaganda machine. From subtle bias in its news coverage to the blatant platforming of establishment voices, the BBC consistently pushes a narrative that favours the status quo. Alternative viewpoints are either ignored or ridiculed, and any criticism of the government's policies is met with accusations of bias, extremism, or worse. And it's not just the BBC. Across the media landscape, from the broadsheets to the tabloids, from the rolling news channels to the online platforms, there's a palpable sense of self-censorship, a reluctance to challenge the narratives that serve the interests of the powerful. Those who dare to dissent, who refuse to toe the line, are quickly targeted. They're labelled as conspiracy theorists, extremists, or simply dismissed as cranks. Their voices are silenced, their platforms removed, their reputations trashed. Social media, once hailed as a tool for democratizing information, has become just another battleground in the war for our minds. Algorithms curate our news feeds, feeding us a steady diet of content designed to reinforce our existing biases and keep us clicking. Dissent is flagged, accounts are suspended, and the illusion of free speech is maintained while the Overton window shrinks ever smaller. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to succumb to a sense of powerlessness. We've exposed the UK government as a sophisticated crime syndicate operating under the guise of democracy. But amidst this bleak reality, there is hope. The act of exposing this deception, shining a light on control mechanisms, is a powerful act of defiance. Their power rests on lies, and those lies crumble when exposed to truth. The human spirit cannot be extinguished. It flickers still, a flame of resistance, burning bright in the hearts of those who refuse to be ruled by fear, who yearn for a better world. The first step towards change is awareness. By understanding the nature of the deception, we empower ourselves to resist. We can no longer afford to be passive bystanders, to accept the crumbs they toss us while they feast at the table of power. Awareness is merely the spark. Action is the fuel that will ignite the fire of change. Move beyond acknowledging the problem and take concrete steps to dismantle the system that binds us. Build a parallel society based on freedom, autonomy, and mutual aid. Reclaim financial sovereignty, support local businesses, and embrace self-sufficiency. Break free from mainstream media, seek alternative sources, and engage in critical thinking. Build strong communities based on mutual aid and cooperation. The road to freedom is long, but it begins with a single step. Let us take that step together.